Hello, and welcome to Sideways. Silence.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you very much. Yes,
Good. You're on time again.
I am. Well, I always set the alarm just before our allotted day on Alexa.
Do you?
Of course, on Alexa. Just a minute before, so I know what time I can finish reading through my notes and stuff and just get in on time. Don't you do the same?
It won't surprise you to know that I don't. It's virtually like a full dress rehearsal, isn't it, that you have then?
Yeah, I like to have a go through. Yeah, I like to have a read through, so I make sure I know where I'm going.
Nice. Very good. Well, I admire your dedication and professionalism.
Thank you, sir. It doesn't come across that way, unfortunately. So all my hard work is lost. But
Well, you say that, but imagine what it would be like if you didn't go through all that.
mate, it would be a shambles. It would be a shambles. But what I wanted to talk about today.
Yeah.
Now this is one that it must have been you that slipped this on the list, because I'd have never have thought of doing this.
Oh.
But it's the benefits of silence.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that sounds like the sort of thing that I would
It does.
suggest.
It sounds like a sort of therapeutic theory that you guys get involved in. But I mean, it would have been crass just to have a blank episode, wouldn't it? Just leave it.
I don't know. It would have been experimental, certainly.
It would have been. It would be like a Yoko Ono album or something, wouldn't it? You know what I mean? It wouldn't be good.
Or Philip Glass.
I don't know who Philip Glass is, but
I'm sure Philip Glass did something similarly odd, like
did he?
just silence or
Was
something.
he half full or half empty with his? He had a half empty album he put out, did he? Silence on one side.
I can think of a few bands who I'd prefer if they put out silent albums.
Yeah, exactly. But not The Sound of Silence by Simon and Garfunkel. That's still a great
good.
tune.
It is, yeah.
Anyway,
Okay, good.
Anyway, so I want to look at the benefits and how we can perhaps incorporate that into our day.
Incorporate more silence into the day.
Yeah, or a chance for a bit of silence.
I'm definitely bang up for that.
I can see
I'm all over silence.
You are, right? I can see that you look enthusiastic, mate.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Just before we start,
Yeah.
it's just a quick little story, really. I quite liked the headline, which was "Man rushed to hospital after being attacked by rat lurking in his toilet." Can you imagine that? Okay, we hear about people having the fear of snakes slipping out of their toilet and giving them a little nip, and this chap's got he got attacked by a rat. Now the headline is probably better than the story itself, because I imagined he'd sat down and got a little nip, on his behind or his low-hanging fruit or whatever, but in fact,
I wondered how you were going to approach that. Then you did quite well.
I felt that was quite good. See, that's why I practice this beforehand. I go through. What actually happened? The rat. I think he'd gone to sit down, and then he realised there was a rat in the toilet. Went to try and pick it out, trying to get it, and it bit his finger. And
Did he sing, as he was doing it, did he sing, "There's a rat in the toilet, what am I going to do"?
It doesn't go into that detail, but I suspect he was a little bit shocked to start singing UB40 tracks. But the ramification was that he narrowly avoided death after contracting sepsis.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. You don't want that, do you?
Not really. I mean, if you saw a rat in the toilet, would you try and fish it out?
Not with my hand, that's for sure.
What would you use?
I don't know. I'd probably try and flush it first, wouldn't you? Get rid of it that way.
That's not very nice to the poor rat.
Well, you don't want him lurking. You certainly don't want him in the house. So
Well, I don't
Yeah.
want him in the toilet, but I don't necessarily want to flush him. He might get stuck in the U-bend, mightn't he?
I'm just hoping it's something I don't have to worry about or encounter.
Well, in the house in which I grew up, which you'll know, I remember in the cellar there was a toilet in the cellar, and I remember going to use the cellar toilet once, which we had to use occasionally if someone was having a bath or something, and you needed a wee. And there was a dead rat in the toilet.
Was there?
Yeah.
That's not nice.
So there was no danger of me being attacked by it, but it was quite unpleasant, I have to say.
Yeah. But this chap was in Montreal in Canada. So perhaps they've got more rats there in their toilets.
Perhaps they're more dangerous.
Perhaps they carry sepsis.
So what's the message here? The message is if you see a rat in your toilet today, don't fish it out with your hands.
Don't fish it out. Probably just put the lid down and hope it goes away, or call in the men that know about how to deal with rats.
and hum a UB40 track.
Whilst you're doing it. So anyway, enough of that nonsense. Should we get on to the subject matter?
Yeah, come on then.
I just wanted to start with a little quote, or a little passage, really. Which goes like this: a world in which we're surrounded by information overload and high levels of noise pollution due to constant news streams, phone alerts, social media and more, silence can be pretty hard to come by. Unfortunately, psychologists think this is to our detriment, as quiet, reflective time has been shown to be good for overall well-being in a number of ways, especially those related to stress. So I wanted to go through some of the benefits, really, but I thought it was quite a nice opening gambit just to explain why that it's considered beneficial to have periods of silence.
Yeah, it's interesting because in that quote, I think part of the quote was silence can be hard to come by, and I think as we're going to discover, hopefully, it's only hard to come by if you're the arbiter of that.
Absolutely.
You can create as much silence in your life as you want to.
Yeah, you can. It's just fitting it into a busy schedule, isn't it, often, which can be the problem. But you're right, and we will come on to that. I just want to look...
Just give up your job and sit in silence.
Just meditate, become a Buddhist monk, and that's it. Job done, isn't it? It's not as easy as...
I expect you get fed, don't you?
Gruel and stuff, twice a day.
Gruel? I don't know if they eat gruel. It's probably a fair bit of rice cracking around there, but...
Anyway, I want to look at the benefits just briefly, really, and I'm sure that this is an area in which you're very comfortable. So please feel free to chip in. The first one was improved mental clarity. So most of the studies and most of the research suggests that we can think and process our emotions most clearly when we aren't distracted by noise in our environments. And with that clarity, it becomes ability to make better decisions. I think it's probably quite straightforward and self-explanatory, isn't it? I don't know if that requires too much further.
No, I think it's self-explanatory. I suppose the only thing I'd add is, and maybe this is encapsulated in or incorporated in another point that you're making, but one of the benefits of using silence to process your thoughts is that you get used to your own thoughts. And they don't, and this might sound like an odd observation, but they don't shock you anymore. You kind of become familiar with your own internal monologue world.
Okay.
And I think that in itself often makes us feel more comfortable.
Yeah, no, it is. Again, I haven't got that down as a point on its own, but you're right. It is incorporated across several of these, I think. Mm-hmm. The next one was enhanced self-awareness.
Yeah,
which is really what you were saying there. Sitting in quiet stillness, but a bit like mindfulness meditation, really, but not quite as deep. Is one of the best known ways to increase awareness of your emotions and to practice self-reflection. Is that point, isn't it? It's something which you can learn to enjoy and learn to get benefits from. Yeah,
I think we've discussed before how most people, I might be wrong, I haven't done a statistical analysis on this.
Bit sloppy.
Most people, I think, when they are alone at home, for example, they'll have something on, won't they? They'll have music on, the radio on, the television on. And I don't know, for some people that's because they don't really want to be confronted with their thoughts, but perhaps for other people it's habit. But one of the things that I would certainly recommend is that you try and spend some time in silence, because then you do start to increase your self-awareness. You do start to become aware of what you're thinking and feeling, even if you don't really want to.
You're absolutely right. And I think it's quite important, certainly for people in recovery, because it does help you identify sort of destructive patterns in your life. So which is what self-awareness is partly, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you remember when you were first in recovery, do you remember not really wanting to be silent?
Yeah.
Why?
I do, because you have to think about stuff.
Yeah, and it's probably tiring and upsetting, isn't it?
It is, yeah. You're too busy trying to distract yourself from not drinking.
Yeah.
So silence, the demons can talk quite loudly at that point if you're not
right. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
So it does take a while. I think it is something you should practice in recovery, meditation, which we've always talked about, and these periods where you can self-reflect. But it's got to be done. There's a sweet spot as far as time spent doing it, and that can change as you go through the recovery process. Yes. So the next point was help with productivity, and this is probably comes from more of a corporate viewpoint, really. But I think it translates across into everyday life, really, because being calmer and more focused in general leads to increased productivity when it comes to just making decisions as well, really.
I think we talked about this recently, didn't we? This kind of I can't remember which episode. It was a recent one when we were talking about how whether you work in silence or with some sort of noise in the background is down to personal preference. But I think this point is about how if you do allow yourself to operate without any distraction, then the likelihood is you will get a greater clarity of thought, won't you?
You will. For example, I know when I'm putting these notes together, I have nothing on in the background, because I know when I've tried it with music on, even classical music, which I'm a big fan of using to calm the mind down, I still find I'm listening to it sometimes. I'll drift away from my notes, my research, and start listening to it. So because I think the opposite of having this calm oasis of calm, if you like, to be productive. The opposite really is if you're overwhelmed and your mind is distracted by other things, you've naturally become less productive. Like these notes would take much longer to put together if there's any noise going on in the background.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't feel calm if I was listening to Oasis, as you just mentioned them. I'd feel violent, as if I wanted to smash things up.
Well, that's down to personal preference, because I'm a bit of a fan, but I wouldn't have them on in the background when I was trying to do something that required concentration, that's for sure. But for those of us, those people that are listening that are of the creative mind, silence is definitely been seen to boost creativity. And I think some of the most well-known artists and well-known authors certainly will advocate this process where the silence is the best way to produce the best work.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the idea of writing something creative with noise on, no, I definitely couldn't do that under any circumstances.
No.
I think if someone said, I'm going to shoot you unless you can write something creative with this music on, I think that would be it. That would be my lot. I'd be deader than Elvis.
You would be deader than Elvis. And I think that I did come across, again in the research, something called maladaptive daydreaming disorder.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever come across that?
I don't think so, no.
No, I hadn't. And I didn't have time to read it, really, and to go through it. So I'll come back to that perhaps at a later stage.
Yeah, maybe we'll do a whole episode on it.
If we can concentrate.
I mean, it certainly sounds like the sort of disorder I might have.
Yeah, it does. Yes. Look it up, mate. You've probably got it.
Yeah, because my attention is easily that's part of the reason that I like silence, because my attention is so easily captured, and I can hook myself onto something tiny, almost imperceptible, and that's it. Then I'm gone.
Yeah, well, I'm being distracted right now because my phone is buzzing.
Is it your grandson?
It is, yeah. But, he knows. If I answer it now, he say, "Are you doing your podcast?" So he knows it, the timing, and he's still persisting. But I'll ring him back in a moment. So yeah, so that was a great example. Even though I had it on silent, it was still vibrating on my desk.
Yeah, he's not respecting your need for silence, is he?
And I'm going to pull him up on that the minute I answer, the minute I ring him back. Next point, yes, the physical health benefits tied to decrease stress. So this silence produces a reduction in potential stress. And looking at the loud and noisy and chaotic environments are known to increase perceptions of stress.
Now, tell me this then.
Yeah.
I don't suppose it's in your notes, but you can tell me what you think from a personal perspective. I think there'll be a lot of people listening who will say, oh, actually, silence increases my feelings of stress. Yeah. You know, for reasons that we spoke about earlier, because you are then having to confront your feelings. Yeah. What do you think about that? I think
it is. I mean, I think what we're talking about here really is the stress hormones can be released. So it's the perception of stress. For example, I know that you're not keen on large crowds. Okay?
Correct.
So if you're in a large crowd, like I was in London yesterday, and parts of London were just bustling with people, and you can feel, you perceive stress at that point, even though there's nothing really greatly to be stressed about, just the perception, which it releases your these stress hormones, doesn't it? Cortisol and adrenaline and stuff. So yes, that's the point we're trying to make here. But the point you were making, I think we've already covered. Really, it is. Yeah, in recovery, the demons can talk loudest when you're.
I suppose I'm wondering what the way through. I'm wondering what the way through that is, because I expect they'll probably. It's easy to appreciate that silence is good for you, but if you find it incredibly uncomfortable, how do you reach a point where you are able to tolerate it more?
Certainly in recovery, you'll probably find that it's best around once you've been sober for about 3 months.
Okay, so probably what we're saying here is you have to build up your tolerance for it, like anything else. You have to build up your silence muscle.
Absolutely. It's the same as everything. If you practice it more, it becomes a more natural way of behaving.
Exactly. So if you can't tolerate silence, try. In fact, I've done this with clients. I can think of someone specifically who could not stand any gap in the conversation because he could hear the ticking of the clock, and the ticking of the clock signified to him his life was passing, and he wasn't in a very good space, right? So, so part of what we did was I said, I can remember saying to him, I'm not going to talk, neither of us are going to talk now for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, or whatever it was, and we're going to see what happens. And he wasn't sure about it, but we did it, and it was interesting because what he found was that his discomfort increased and increased and increased, and it got to a kind of crescendo, and then it didn't get any worse, and then it started to actually get a little bit better. He started to become more tolerant, more able to cope with this absence of sound, probably because he knew we were going to talk again after 3 minutes. But I think that is an illustration of how you can build up your tolerance for something like that so that it starts to become, easier.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are uncomfortable with silence. I've certainly been very bad at that in the past, and probably still am. But it is something I've sort of worked on, because I know I've sat in fellowship meetings like the AA or something, and you get these incredibly long silences sometimes, and you can start to hear people start to shuffle their feet or just cough, because this silence waiting for someone else to share, someone else to chip in, can be quite painful.
Yeah, great. So if you're in that situation, if you happen to be in that situation, see what happens if you just tolerate your discomfort.
Yeah.
Because if it goes on and on and on and on, eventually it'll start to feel easier. I know it doesn't seem as if it will, but what's going to happen? You're not going to explode. It's like you will eventually start to feel more comfortable with the reality around you.
Yeah, you're right. And I certainly, when I've sat in AA and stuff, and these silences, they're probably not anywhere near as long as I'm perceiving. It's probably only 10 seconds, perhaps 15, but it just feels like it just going on forever sometimes.
I used to have a therapist years and years and years ago who, when we started a session, she would say nothing. Right, so she was waiting for me to bring whatever I was going to bring.
Wow, that's.
And I wasn't in a very good space at the time, And so quite often I would start that session. I'd think, I don't know what I want to talk about today. I don't feel like I want to. I'd look through the skylight at the rain or whatever.
Yeah.
But this silence would go on and on and on and on until I broke it.
Okay.
But it was important because what she was doing was she was saying, well, this is your space. You can bring in here whatever you want. I mean, literally, had I not said anything, I expect we would have gone through the whole session without any sound. There's something very powerful, and it's a gift actually being able to give that to someone, being able to tolerate silence with someone and sit with them in silence.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on that in a moment because we go straight onto that because it seems sort of counterintuitive, but they reckon that sitting with someone else in silence, like your partner, for example, can be incredibly beneficial. Yeah. It's like a caregiving practice.
Yeah.
And it's perceived as being sort of relevant in sort of spiritual or existential dimensions, really. It's something which is, I've never tried that with a partner. I suppose because often when you're sitting in silence, it's perceived as that your relationship's breaking down.
Well, you say that.
Nothing to talk about. But and you've seen people in restaurants sometimes, you think, my God, they've obviously, they must be married for so long. They've got nothing to say to each other. And it looks painful.
Okay, so there's three things here. The first one, just on that specific point.
Okay.
You see a couple in a restaurant, they're not talking to each other.
Yeah.
And it's our assumption that there's something wrong there. Yeah. So we assume because they're not talking, they must have had an argument or they don't get on or whatever. But we don't know that, do we, at all?
We don't.
Which brings me to the second point, which is the contrary to that sort of feeling that you're not able to sit in silence with a partner is that it's an indication that you are so comfortable with one another that words are not necessary.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Sort of. Yeah. It says that really. It's a caregiving practice where words may fail. So it's. But I've never.
It shows an ability, or it's kind of demonstrative of a level of comfort that I think you can only build with someone that you've known for a long time or you know deeply.
Yeah.
And that brings me to a third thing, which is therapeutically, I think I've said this to you before, the silence is where the magic happens quite often. Because if you're able to stop when you kind of notice a client is deep in thought or something's going on for them, and you just step back and you don't say anything, you're letting them do their work, aren't you?
Yeah.
And sometimes it does feel uncomfortable, especially if there's only two people in a room. So, I'm totally on board with that one. I think that's absolutely true. Silence quite often is an indication of a much deeper connection than the kind of superficial that comes through speech.
Yeah, that's a fair point. It's probably not wise to practice that on a first date, is it? Just
Probably not. Probably. I mean, you might be giving out mixed signals, mightn't you?
Or none at all. Yeah. But no, you're right. I suppose it can be seen. You must have seen that. People think they just
definitely.
Look,
and I've
they look totally bored.
Yeah,
in each other's company.
I've thought, oh God, look at those two having a miserable time. But we don't know it, do we?
No, we don't. No, and it's something to bear in mind, isn't it? Mm. Yeah. The last point really was better sleep, which is one of the benefits if you do practice silence, especially just before bed. I mean, and I've found that certainly taking the TV out of the bedroom, it broke, and I didn't replace it. All right,
that'll do it.
Yeah, it didn't. I thought, it's something I was seriously contemplating first of all. I thought I'll just replace it, and then I left it a few days, and instead of watching the TV or watching the match of the day, finishing that off in bed, I just read instead, and it's so much better. It is so much better. And a bit of quiet contemplation. It does help your sleep pattern improve. Yeah. So I'm all over that one. Yeah. I really am.
Couldn't agree more.
So I just want to have a quick look then, really, how to practice this silence. I mean, we talked about it slightly earlier on about this sweet spot. But I reckon that something like 15 to 20 minutes a day, putting aside a certain time to do that, seems to be about right. Much longer than that, it can become a bit more of a chore, and certainly it suggests that shorter than that, you're not going to get a great deal of benefit from it. But everyone's going to have their own sweet spot, aren't they?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I've never I never considered sort of putting a time on it.
No.
I'm gonna keep a silence diary this week. See how much time I spend in silence, because I bet it's a lot.
Well, I think you're probably better than others at doing that, perhaps because of your background. But I think it's they talk about also that if you don't have this, if we do have a hectic schedule, and you can't put that time aside, you can always do like these. They call them sacred pauses or mini meditations, where you can sort of slow the process down and give yourself quiet breaks to relax. Things like take a deliberate break from the noise of technology. All right, so you can still be carrying on doing other stuff, but avoid the temptation to fill the silence by turning on the TV or YouTube videos, the radio or music, etc. I mean, I don't know about you, but sometimes I'm watching the TV and I'm on my phone.
I'm quite bad. I'm quite bad for that. That's true.
Yeah.
So I think if I sort of think about myself, I think if I'm using something like I'm listening to music or I'm watching the television or whatever, I'll probably be doing multiple things.
Yeah.
The only thing I can't read and do anything else. But other than that, I'll probably have nothing going. So I think I'm probably a little bit boom and bust in that sense.
Yeah, it's quite tricky. I mean, you and I will be watching a football match, in our own houses, and then texting each other, mainly with stupid comments. But we're on the phone and we're watching the football, and it's there's a lot going on. It's probably a good time after that to have a bit of a silence break before you go to bed.
Yeah, and it's also, I mean, another good way of getting a silence break is go for a walk.
Absolutely, yes.
I've said before, haven't I, that when I see people out walking, especially with their dogs, and they've got their headphones on or their earbuds in, I think, oh, what a wasted opportunity that is. You could just be wandering out in nature in silence with your own thoughts. It might be the only chance you get today while you're walking the dog, but you're even filling that with someone else's thoughts. I mean, that's the thing to think about. If you're not in any sort of silence, if you've always got something going on, you've always got someone else's thinking and creativity going into your head. Where's the space for yours if you're going to do that all the time?
I mean, it's they talk also, one of the points there was about using your commute to do that, which is quite tricky, but they're saying that you can again use a slowdown or a mini meditation really by if you drive, to drive in silence. Don't have the music, or it said
I'd have to do that walking up the stairs.
You would, the commute. There's a longer commute.
I'd do it when I'm in the clinic, couldn't I?
You could do that,
which I do. I mean, I occasionally I'll listen to music, but mostly I'll just walk and think about stuff.
But it says here, to drive in silence. So if you're commuting, that's quite tricky. Well, no, it's not tricky, because I find it sometimes better to drive in silence. I'm more connected with what's going on the road. Mm-hmm. I'm less distracted anyway. But it says to turn off the music and podcasts. No, I can't agree with that.
If I'm on a long journey, I mean, I want to listen to stuff because I need stuff to keep me company. But in sort of little journeys that I do around, I don't think I hardly ever have the radio on. I just, I think the more I think about it, the more I'm convinced that it just becomes habitual, like anything else. The more used you are to not listening to stuff and having silence, the more you recognise the benefits of doing so. Yeah. And it just becomes kind of self-perpetuating then.
Again, it's the silence muscle, isn't it, you're flexing?
It is,
And it talks about that instead of turning on music or other noise whilst you're at home cleaning and cooking, do these things in silence instead. Do you do? I mean, you do a load of cooking, don't you? Do you do that in silence, or do you have a bit of?
Mostly I do it.
You have a bit of Radio 4 clattering on in the background.
I might have a bit of Radio 4, but this time of year, I'm much more likely to open the back doors so that I can hear the birds and cook in silence.
Right. Okay.
I'd much rather listen to the birds than I would some twat wittering on about whatever it is.
The most of the
time.
Yes,
exactly. Well, particularly.
Yeah.
Particularly, I mean, that's another good example, actually. One of the other benefits of silence is give yourself a break from the news. Don't get yourself so anxious and depressed and think we're all about to die in nuclear Armageddon.
Well, quite, it is. Yes, we've talked about that before, haven't we? Limiting the time spent on the news headlines.
Yeah.
I remember I got properly wound up with that during COVID, avidly watching the news and what the messages were being given. Anyway, yes. So, yeah, the cooking, the cleaning bit, I found quite, because if you're using a noisy vacuum cleaner, that's quite tough to do that. But I think that becomes a sort of a white noise almost, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Perhaps it's referring more to dusting.
Perhaps it is, yeah. But I know my Gangan, she always used to hum when she was dusting. Yeah, she'd be singing along. She always seemed very chirpy.
Would she hum from the Book of Psalms? Or
oh yeah, it would be hymns and stuff going on. Yeah, because I'd recognise them sometimes from school. Oh, I recognise that one. Yeah.
She's humming "We plough the fields and scatter" while she's got the Mr. Sheen out.
At the right time of year, because it's very much a harvest festival thing. But she would, I think it was on the Christian Soldiers one. She used to, but it was almost like she was getting into a marching pattern. She was running around their house doing their cleaning.
Yeah, it's like that's like an early version of people creating a jogging playlist. She was making her own sort of cleaning playlist in her head out of hymns.
Yes, led by Jesus. She was, she loved all that. So yes, it's just crossed my mind as we were talking. I remember that. I remember humming. So that's about. Oh no, eating alone. This was quite a strange one. If you tend to eat alone, such as having lunch at work, don't distract yourself with phones and emails, videos, etc. Enjoy a quiet time, quiet meal, which also helps encourage mindful eating. I don't know what mindful eating is.
Well, I can tell you what mindful eating is.
Thank you.
Because I was just thinking about mindful eating. Mindful eating is, in fact, you remember Bo? You met Bo, didn't you?
Yes.
Who headed our CPD group.
Yeah.
And he used to talk about this. He used to talk about how he would kind of mindfully concentrate on different senses on different days. So if you're mindfully eating, you're really noticing the feel of the food in your mouth, the taste of it, the process of chewing and swallowing. You're just focusing on the thing you're doing. So if you're mindfully eating, you're very conscious of that specific task or experience you're having, rather than sullying it with reading the news or watching something on your phone.
Yeah.
And it's a more kind of peaceful way to exist.
Yeah, no, I hadn't come across that before, but that's well explained, because I didn't really understand it.
Obviously, you might feel you don't want to mindfully eat something that you're not enjoying, but
no, quite no. It's gonna, for example, if I was eating a bit of mustard, I'd be furious.
That's right. I was watching something the other day, and they were it was Race Across the World, and they were farming wasabi. I thought about
my God, that's my worst nightmare. But some people also find eating alone is much preferable, or they don't enjoy eating in front of other people. I'm a bit. I must admit, I'm a bit like that.
Are you?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the last time I invite you around for dinner.
No, I think that's a comfortable environment then, I think. But certainly, in the work environment, I've always found myself, over the years, this has always happened. If there's an opportunity to take myself off, maybe pack lunch on my own or whatever, then I'll do so. Yeah.
Yeah, the only I understand that. I mean, I'm certainly like that. If I go to a training event or something and there's a lunch set out, but the reason that I want to take myself off is because then I won't have to talk to anyone.
Oh yeah, well exactly, yeah. But again, it's a time just to be on your own anyway, isn't it? But you're right, yeah.
Yeah.
No, that would be high on your list. Yeah. Now there's the last point really. Oh, there's two, but the last one, proper one, I think, is sitting on a park bench, or just to listen to the gentle sounds of nature around you, which you sort of touched on now. I saw this I was in London yesterday and walking through Hyde Park. It is like an oasis of calm there, really, isn't it? In the centre of this metropolis, you've got this lovely green space, and you can see people there taking advantage. Just laying on because it was sunny yesterday as well, so laying on the grass, and you can see people just on their own, dotted about, just taking time out from this chaos that's around them, which is central London. I imagine it's probably the same in Central Park.
That goes back to what we were saying at the start. Don't be lulled into the belief that you can't create silence in your life. because you're in control of that.
Yeah.
If there isn't any silence in your life, really, in the end, there's only one person that's responsible for that, and it's you.
Yeah. Which is a good place to wind up. Except the last point was, and I've never tried this, and I don't know anyone that has, but try a floating meditation in a sensory deprivation tank, which is silent, dark, and the same temperature as your body. I can't think of anything worse, but I don't know. Have you tried it?
I do that most days.
Oh, in a bath. But this sensory deprivation tank, that scares the hell out of me. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I wouldn't like that, I don't think.
No.
I mean, that's too much, really. I'll just carry on with my own little silent ways, if that's all right. I don't need a sensory deprivation.
No, you don't. It reminds me of, because when I've had treatment in the past, gone to the hospital, and you have to go inside those like CAT scans or MRI scans or whatever they are, and it encapsulates your whole body. It feels like you're in a coffin, and that to me sounds like what a sensory deprivation tank would be like. And no way, Jose, I'm not going anywhere near any of that.
Okay, so it's a big thumbs down to that then.
Big thumbs down to that last point, and I'd like to know what other people think about that if they've tried it.
I don't know. I don't know anyone who's tried it. Certainly.
No, I don't. So that's me sort of finished up. I couldn't really find any quotes that I wanted to bring in at this point. I like often to finish off with a quote, but I thought it would be nice perhaps just to go on to the conundrum feature, which you've introduced.
Oh, so you don't like going from the conversation to the gratitude list, do you? Because you fought against that last week as well.
I did, yeah.
So tell me about it. Why does it upset you?
No, I'm not going into that. I'm not on the couch. I haven't paid you a fee yet. So.
All right. So this week's question, I'm just going to go through these in the order that I thought of them. Okay. So there's no science here.
Okay.
It's just when I started thinking about these questions, they flowed out of me.
Did they? Well, I'm interested because you've obviously put some thought into this.
Yeah, well, so the second question is it okay to laugh at a funeral?
Okay, well, I have this overwhelming urge sometimes to laugh at funerals, and I think it's almost like a stress release, isn't it?
It is a stress release. Unless, of course, you are genuinely amused by the death of someone.
Which I don't think many people are they? And but I always stifle it, so I'd say no, it's not acceptable to laugh at funerals.
Okay, that's really interesting. Because I think it is okay to laugh at a funeral.
Do you?
So yeah, I do. Because
I think it's disrespectful.
No, I know. Okay, well that's okay. This is the whole point of this feature. I'm glad we're disagreeing.
Good. Yes.
Firstly, because I'm quite happy for people to laugh at my funeral. Just to want to make that clear.
Oh, that's a point. I will be doing that. That's for sure.
But the reason I think it's okay is because as you just said, quite often. That's really hard for someone to control. It is a stress response. It's just the way that their emotion is coming out.
Yeah.
And I think when we sort of say, well, that's inappropriate, that's disrespectful, what you're not respecting is the way that person is having to deal with very powerful and strong emotions in that moment. It's my belief that the person in the cask doesn't give a shit.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
So the issue when someone finds themselves laughing at a funeral, and remember, if you do laugh at a funeral, you probably feel really terrible about it.
Yeah.
So other people coming down on you and saying, well, that's disrespectful. I can't believe Graham was laughing at a funeral. That's not helpful, is it? I'm not laughing at a funeral. It goes back to the silent couple thing. The assumption is if someone's laughing at a funeral, they're not taking it seriously. But actually it might be that they're laughing because they just cannot control the depth and the power of the emotion they've got. So I think it's all right to laugh at a funeral. I don't think you should be judging other people at funerals.
Oh, I do. I think it's the right thing. I don't think people... No, laughing. That's disrespectful because most of it is people crying.
What happens what about if you can't help it? It just comes out, right?
Well, no, you can help it.
You're making an assumption about how other people cope with emotion.
I'm saying that I have this overwhelming urge to laugh, but I don't. I stifle it, and other people should do the same.
You are able to manage that emotion. What happens to someone who can't?
Then they should be taken out the back and thrashed until they stop laughing. It's a somber occasion. It's disrespectful.
I don't think it should be a somber occasion. It's a celebration of life, isn't it?
It's a chance to. You are right. I think the last funeral I went to, it was very much a celebration, and there was almost audience participation in sort of singing and chanting.
Tell me this.
But I didn't like it. I didn't think I was uncomfortable with that.
Okay. But imagine your funeral, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you will be there, but you probably won't know much about it.
No, quite.
If you think about your funeral with a collection of all the people who cared about you, I mean, I know there won't be many.
Yeah. No,
probably be in a phone box.
It would be the vicar and the passerby, yeah.
Yeah, with a vicar and somebody who's turned up at the wrong time.
Yeah.
So if you imagine all the people that really cared about you,
yeah.
Are you more comfortable imagining them all sad and miserable or laughing?
No, I think it'd just be just a respectful reflection. I don't want them laughing, particularly, or crying. I think there's a middle ground where you can just do your bit.
Oh, what? So you sort of narrow band your emotions,
Yeah,
so you're neither one thing nor the other.
Just for the time being, it's only a 20-minute stuff, and
So can they laugh at the wake?
Absolutely, yeah. And then once you get to the wake, the dry, sober wake, then you can laugh as much as you like. That's the time
I'm bringing a hip flask if you go first.
Just to piss on my fire. Yeah, literally piss on my bonfire. Yeah,
Oh, good. Well, that's good, because I'm glad we disagreed about that one. But it'd be interesting if anyone's got any strong thoughts about that. Then we'll be glad to hear them, as long as you agree with me.
Everyone will agree with me. Honestly, you'll find
people will agree with you. But I don't think it's ever okay to be dismissive or judgmental about someone else's emotions or the way they display them.
Well,
unless, of course, they're being destructive or violent.
Absolutely, yeah. And I don't
think laughing at a funeral is violent, is it?
Oh, well, it's not, but I think it's destructive. So we'll leave it right there.
I'll cross that one off then. Good, we've done that one.
So yeah, gratitude list. And the only reason I'm doing it in that order is because that's the way my template falls, mate. So it's not that I'm uncomfortable in going straight to gratitude from the subject matter. But it's the way my notes are panned out, and I don't like to change them around. Don't like to change the template.
Well, sometimes a bit of a shift is good for you.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I'll try it next week, perhaps. See how we go. It depends how I feel.
Who's first with gratitude?
You can go first if you like.
All right. Window cleaners.
Oh, okay.
Now,
go on. Yes, you're going to have to...
as you know, I've kind of set up a little bit of a study in the middle room where I've got my guitars.
Yeah.
I've got my desk by the window there. I've been sitting there, doing me sessions and so on. And I've been thinking, these windows are a bit dirty. It's not very nice sort of staring through the window when they're not very clean.
True.
And so I found myself hoping that the window cleaners would be round soon. And when I got the text saying, "Hi, this is so-and-so, your window cleaner. We'll be round tomorrow to clean your windows," I was quite excited about it. And so they turned up, cleaned the windows, and now I can see, out of the windows, and it's given me a little lift. So I'm grateful this week for the windows. When you think about the difference it makes, being able to look out of your house through clear windows for the price of it, I think it's pretty good value. Window cleaning.
And they tend to use those very long poles these days, don't they, and squirt the water up them rather than get up with a...
No, my window cleaner's got ladders. They get up properly.
In that case, I'll take my hat off to the lad.
And dry them, which those people with the poles don't do.
No, they don't. And so I was going to counteract your argument by saying I don't really like them because they seem to be lazy. I do not want
smeary windows, thank you very much.
Smeary windows, a Tina Turner song, but I think it was... But yeah, you're right. No, in that, much respect for whoever did your windows in that case, because that's much more of the old-fashioned way of doing it. Where you do actually get up there and get involved with cloths and stuff.
Yeah, there we are.
Okay, well, on my gratitude list, I've got the Hammersmith Apollo that used to be the Odeon. Now,
lovely. I haven't been there for a long time.
Well, that was the thing. I hadn't been there for a long time, so I was grateful that it's changed very little over the years. Yeah, it's everything's still in its same place.
Does it? Does it still smell the same?
No, it's slightly different smell, but it was. It just reminded me because it was one of the first places I went to watch live music. So back in the late 70s when I went to see bands there. And it's almost like a comfortable feeling going back there. Even though the name's changed from the Odeon to the Apollo, You go in and the box office is still in the same place. We used to queue up and get tickets for the next gig that was coming out.
Wow.
The toilets were still in the same place, and the decor upstairs and everything was still still very similar to how it was. It was just it's sort of a conscious effort they've made to encapsulate the feeling that's always been there. It was a proper music venue.
And the auditorium's pretty similar, I imagine.
Well, they've taken out the seats in the stalls, so
have they?
Yeah, they have. So that's changed.
So I don't know about that then.
Well, yeah, it means I couldn't sit down. So at my age, it takes standing up for long periods of time. Especially, I've been walking around London most of the day since I got up there around midday-ish. It was quite testing on my age.
You have to take them one of those shooting stools, won't you?
Well, I didn't go in the mosh pit, that's for sure. But it was. The band, the Hives that I went to see, they're just magnificent, and so it was great. But I was grateful because I was trying to think the last time I'd been to the Hammersmith Odeon or the Apollo, and it was about 25 years ago.
Yeah,
so even though I spent a lot of time there in the 70s and 80s, I went to see Jimmy Page with my elder brother, which is rare. I go to gigs with my elder brother. We went to see Jimmy Page. It was about 25 years ago. So, and it hasn't changed it's changed very little since then. So I was pleased.
I don't know who I last saw at the Hammersmith Odeon. That's quite disturbing. It must be a good 25 years since I've been there, if not longer.
Yeah. Treat yourself. Well, perhaps we'll go. We'll have it. We'll find a band to go and watch because it's. I might sit down this time.
Yeah. Journey or someone like that.
Not Journey. Not American rock.
Boston.
None of that.
I remember seeing Bill Withers there, but I must have been there since then because that's got to be 30 years. I mean, I've seen many bands there, but they were mostly in the heyday.
Well, quite, and that's because I remember there used to be a pub opposite called the Britannia, which I was pleased to say that's gone. It's a shopping centre now.
Here's a question for you then, related to the Hammersmith Odeon. Okay. I'm not calling it the Apollo in the same way as I'm going to continue to call the shopping centre Stoneborough.
Okay, exactly.
Can you remember the gig at which you were closest to the stage?
Motorhead gig.
Oh, blimey! That wouldn't be one I'd have chosen to be too close to the stage.
No, I think we're 4 rows from the front, and it was extraordinarily distorted. And it wasn't enjoyable particularly.
Yeah, I was 3 or 4 rows from the front seeing Alice Cooper.
Oh, right, okay.
That was quite good.
That would have been quite good, yeah.
Now, he had a snake, of course, so that's a similarity between you and him, isn't it? I think it's the only one, although you're both recovering alcoholics.
Yeah. So me and Alice are close friends. We're buddies, virtually.
You've virtually you're virtually the same, aren't you?
Yeah. But, I can imagine that up close, but seeing Lemmy that close is not great, particularly, really.
No, that's pretty tough, yeah. Okay. Good.
Okay, so we're talking about we're dripping on about music here, so we'll go on to On This Day in Music, but in which year?
Yeah, we better do that. Yeah.
You remember which year the "Young at Heart" by the Bluebells was number one in the UK?
Young at Heart. Yeah, that's really tough because although I know the song, pitching it where it was is almost impossible.
It is quite tricky. It gets played quite a lot, doesn't it? Still to this day on the radio.
You tell me, I always go with my first instinct, but I'm actually going to go with my second instinct, so I'll be cross if I was wrong. Okay. I'm going to go 1986.
What was your first instinct?
85.
No, 93. So both your instincts were wrong.
Oh, okay.
A bit later.
Yeah.
I'd have gone late.
The less said about that one, the better.
Yeah, I'd have gone late 80s, to be honest, with you.
Would you?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah. I definitely wouldn't have gone 90s. So
no.
There we are.
No, I did have
They should have written that earlier because that's annoying.
Well, it is now, in retrospect, isn't it? Yeah. They should have had a period of silence and thought about it first before they released it. Do you know the year in Richie Blackmore was born? Now,
Richie Blackmore.
And I think he's one of our favourite guitarists, really, isn't he? Would you say? We share...
yes, I mean, he's a bit weird, isn't he, now? I think.
I haven't
heard. He's gone a bit weird.
Has he? No, I'm thinking about Deep Purple and Rainbow.
Yeah, certainly I liked it. Yes, I liked the pinnacle of his work, shall we say?
And I think Rainbow for me was probably I preferred his stuff in Rainbow than probably in Deep Purple. But when was he? When was he born, mate? What year?
48.
Oh, 45. So close, mate. No, you're
Like he's 79.
yeah, he is, yeah. So he's just 79 today.
Wow.
So happy.
Happy birthday, Richie.
So he'll be an octogenarian next year, and he'll join that long list of people.
Still playing his white Stratocaster.
He probably is. There's a lot of people that are in their 80s that are still strutting their stuff on stage, aren't they?
Yeah. Well done.
Now, in the last one is, this person is to join our supergroup.
Is he a trumpet player?
No, and it's not really someone. Well, this is. I think that this lady gets in probably because as a photographer.
Oh, as a photographer?
Yeah, because she was just really a minor musician. She played in Wings.
Oh, right. So Linda McCartney.
Linda McCartney, yes.
Well, she was a good keyboard player, I think. Wasn't she?
Well, I don't know. She was okay, I think. Yeah, but a lot of people think she just got in because she was Paul McCartney's wife, so he popped her on, give her a job.
Okay.
But that's
a controversial
it is, and I perhaps ought to withdraw that in case
you might get sued by Paul.
Some litigation is on its way. So she died on the 17th of April at the age of 56. Bless her. So she, there's no age, 56. But do you know what year that happened?
Yeah, this is longer ago. This is longer ago than it sounds.
Yeah,
she was 56.
Because Paul's been married a couple of times since then, hasn't he?
Yeah. Sorry, how old was she? 56.
She was 56 when she died. Yeah.
I'm going to say 2000.
Oh, mate, 2 years out, 1998.
Oh.
Very close on that one.
Well, those were tricky this week.
They were tricky.
Yeah.
And I get this feeling you think I've done her a disservice by putting her through as the photographer.
No. I mean, I'm no expert on keyboard players, and I'm no expert on Wings, really. But I just think it was a bold statement.
Was it? Well, perhaps we haven't got a keyboard player, I don't think, at the moment, so she can do that. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, that wasn't even. Yeah, I'd forgotten. That's the most disparaging part of what you said. You didn't even think she was up to being the keyboard player. She's just the bloody band photographer.
Well, yeah, I'm feeling a little bit humbled by your.
I think by association, you're criticising the Beatles.
No, I'd never do that. That's for sure.
You basically said you hate the Beatles. I think we better draw a discreet veil over that immediately.
Bring this episode to a very sharp close. I'm going to have a moment of contemplation, silence.
All right, I'll see you later.
Okay, thanks, mate. Bye.
Bye. Sideways was created by Graham Landy and Martin Pankhurst. If you want to read more about our work or sort through the extensive archive of past episodes, just visit grahamlandy-wellbeing.co.uk/sideways-podcast. You can follow us on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram at Sideways Podcast, and you can email us if you have a question or if there's something you'd like us to cover. But most of all, we want to tell you how grateful we are that you come and listen, and we ask that if you've enjoyed what you've heard, that you spread the word. And we'll see you next week.